Hi, it's Jim Van Buren. Today we're at the southernmost tip of Hecla Island, or actually maybe a little bit just to the south of that, on the mainland, but there is a causeway which joins the mainland to the island itself. The causeway was built back in the early 70s to replace a ferry service that used to connect Hecla Island with the mainland. That ferry service was built in the early 1950s, and it would transport vehicles back and forth to Hecla Village, which is roughly halfway up the eastern side of Hecla Island. At one time it was called Mickley Island. That was a previous name for Hecla Island. Right now, Hecla Island is one part of a large maritime park, which is really known as Hecla-Grindstone Provincial Park. That Hecla Island is one of two large islands, another one called Black Island, which is just further to the northeast of Hecla. Those two islands are surrounded by water, and that water is actually part of the park. So the park is I would call it a maritime provincial park. It does have a fishing village on it, and there is a lot of fishing that goes on around the islands themselves. The original inhabitants of this area after the First Nations people were Icelanders. They were apparently forced off the island of Iceland by volcanic eruptions, and they came to this part of Canada, this part of Manitoba, and settled down and lived here for quite a number of years. And it was an active community until the 70s. The causeway seemed to have been the way that a lot of people actually were encouraged to leave this particular area. And there were a number of people that were resident on Hecla Island into the early 70s. Now, Hecla Island is unusual in a sense. It provides geology that can't be seen anywhere else in southern Manitoba. We're in the south basin of Lake Winnipeg, or effectively very close to it. And at that point, you can get to see formations which are the Winnipeg Formation, the Red River Formation. Both those two geological formations are found. The Winnipeg is a silica sand. The Red River is essentially a dolomite or a dolomitic limestone, and it is quarried, and there are quite a few quarries on the island within the provincial park. One of them is actually owned by the Parks Branch and is used for road construction and road building on the island. So there are plenty of things to see from a geological point of view. I'm standing on a large glacial erratic. There's a number of them that have been positioned here. These, of course, are transported in as such by humans. It's not left over by the glaciers. But the typical rounded Precambrian boulders are quite common in the Interlake area. Again, we're on the first prairie level of Manitoba, and it is generally flat as you look around in all the directions from here. We're almost at lake level, and so this really demonstrates that Manitoba is a lake province. Within the Red River Formation, there are 4 members. The lowest one is called the Doghead. Above that is the Cathead. Above that is the Selkirk. And finally, the uppermost member is the Fort Garry member of the Red River Formation. In this particular area, we only see the Doghead. You have to go further to the west to actually see some of the Cathead member of the Red River. So it is mainly swampy terrain. The causeway, again, was built to join Hecla Island with the mainland, and has been a very, let's say, a game changer to this part of the province. Tourism is very special to this provincial park. There are a lot of tourists that come this way using that causeway. And so it is something that we really appreciate, having the access to such a beautiful place. Interesting from geological terms, but also for vegetation, animal life. There's moose and beaver and all sorts of creatures living in this particular provincial park. And it is really a beautiful place to see. It's on the flightways of a lot of the Canada geese flying north and south across North America. And it is really a fantastic place to come and visit.